two games for Newcastle United, Manchester United away and Everton at home. So lots to get into today, lads. But first, Pete, I'll come to you because you were actually at the Manchester game. How was it?
Great day, crappy day. Fair result, but overall a brilliant day. It's always a good away day when you're out with the lads on the piss all day. So regardless of the result, but the result was a bit of a bonus, I'd say. On the downside, I come back with COVID, so a bit of a
swings and roundies.
That's it, exactly, mate. But great day.
I seen a few pictures you put on and look good. Like we might get some of them on our socials, which at St James's Pod everywhere. But let's dive straight in the game. First of all, the lineup. It was pretty similar lineup to the previous two wins, except Joe Willock dropped to the bench and Joe Linton came in. What were your feelings when you saw the team sheet, lads? Confident, or I was starting to get a little bit nervous?
I'd say confident enough. I think Joe Linton coming in was... It's always a plus, I think, Joe Linton coming in. I believe Willock wasn't very well 2 or 3 days prior to the game. That's why he was dropped, apparently.
Yeah, had a bit of sickness or something, I think.
Well, I think so, yeah. It's all going around at the minute. But with the whole... Obviously, I think was it just before the game, we got the whole news that Maxi wasn't going to be fit because he's made a Weetabix. Isak's far away, so they're probably two of the best players. So, but look back at the squad we've had recently, you couldn't sort of worry. I think it'd be a tougher game, but you couldn't really worry the form that we're in.
Yeah, I think for me it was like, I don't know why, but as soon as I started seeing Old Trafford on the telly and that, the confidence just dropped. Which is, it's weird because I know, like, man, you aren't the same team they used to be, but for whatever reason, like, as soon as the TV coverage started, I was like, oh, you know what, this is going to be a tough game. But I'll pick up on something you mentioned there. Paige, I'll come to you on this. With the injuries we're getting, obviously Maxi's had a setback. Isak's now apparently going to be out till after the World Cup. What's your thoughts on these injuries we're picking up? There's been a lot of talk that maybe there's something we could be doing about it because they're all muscle injuries, but then other people say it's just a bit unfortunate. How do you take it?
It seems to be a strange one because it couples with we've lost Derek Wright, haven't we, as our physio now, long-term physio, and a lot of people in the backroom staff at Newcastle were obviously thought really highly of Derek Wright. He'd been there for a good few decades. Obviously, he's retired, and Eddie's brought new people in. So I don't know if there's an adjustment period there in terms of just getting, those things in place. But also, you got to remember that there's the style in which we're playing with now, a lot more high intensity pressing. It's gonna impact on like hamstrings and muscle injuries more so because of the amount of pressure that we're putting on the players to make those short bursts of running and everything else. So I think it's obviously unfortunate we're losing a lot of players to that, but it comes with obviously a new style which is getting results. So I think it's one which we have to balance and hope that we can come out the other end on. But yeah, that's what I'd say.
Yeah, I agree to some extent with the high intensity pressing play that we're doing. We're probably all going to pick up more injuries in general. But I think I've mentioned this to Pete before, that under Steve Bruce, if we were getting this many muscle injuries, we'd be absolutely slating Steve Bruce. We'd be slating the medical team because for a long time we have picked up a lot of injuries, and I just think it's just bad luck. Well, obviously, St Maximin's got a history of his injuries, so you can put that down to the player himself. Isak doesn't have that history. But even, you mentioned Derek Wright leaving, from top to bottom, since the new regime came in, we've hired the very best from top to bottom when you're talking about staff, whether it's the CEO, technical director, everything. So I've got no doubts that the physios, the medical team that they're bringing in are going to be the highest caliber that they've got. So I don't think they'll be able to put it down to that. But yeah, I think with Saint-Maximin, obviously it's just a personal thing. I think it's unlucky. Unfortunately, he is out till after the World Cup. But it's just one of those things where obviously we've tried to add to the squad. We've tried to add. We know we wanted a right winger come the end of the window. So I think in time we'll get that squad depth. So we are having more impactful players coming in off the bench when we do get these injuries, and we aren't hampered by them so much. Where you've got to play players who you might not think are anywhere near Saint-Maximin standard, for example.
Yeah, I was going to sort of agree with what you said there. I don't think it's the fact that we're got rid of Derek Ray. I don't think that's got anything to do with it, because we've had injuries before. We get injuries after it all the time. It just so happens that a lot of the time it's hamstrings, which is frustrating. I think Eddie Howe was saying that Maxi's hamstring is like the third reoccurrence of the same problem. And Isak, he was saying that when he joined us, he came with a very slight, I don't know if he said hamstring injury or just a thigh injury.
He said hamstring, yeah.
Did he say hamstring? Well, there you go.
Yeah.
So he obviously hasn't been fully up to speed when he's been playing with us. But obviously he was saying that he's going to get a nice little pre-season when the World Cup's on. Sweden aren't in the World Cup, obviously, so that'll be good to get him up to speed. But another good thing is a happy face to see is John Joe Shelby back. It's good to see him back, warming up these days and becoming a part of the team. I know he's sort of, Eddie Howe claimed he was like an emergency sub. He would bring it on if he very had to, but it's nice to see the players who was hit by the injury. It's nice to see them start coming back now.
Yeah, Shelby seems to be way ahead of schedule from what they first expected. So, I mean, obviously he's not ready to start yet, but it is great to see him on the bench. But just quickly before we move on, what did you think when Eddie Howe came out with that on Isak? Because it shocked me a bit when he says, basically when we bought him, he had a hamstring injury, and then he was thrown straight in. I think he played 3 games, and then he went away with Sweden and come back with a proper injury. But it makes me feel like, are we protecting the players enough? Again, Shelby's straight on the bench. He's an emergency, but he's still on the bench. So if he's not ready, should he be on the bench?
Yeah, I mean, I thought that when he said that, I panicked a bit. I was thinking, well, does that mean Isak was a bit of a panic buyer? I know he's one of the sought after strikers. I was thinking, did we just panic and go after him there? Because it is strange knowing that he's coming with it. Whether they do the job, they do the due diligence, so they could have investigated it and realised it's nothing. It's a tiny little, I don't know, a little knock or something. One of these things that happens. So, but it did make you think, definitely. Protection-wise, I think that it's purely down to squad depth. Really, we had to get off to a flying start this season. We couldn't start hanging about at the bottom and start panicking, and then worrying that we're down near the bottom of the table. Then more injuries kick in. I don't think Eddie's had a choice, to be honest, because we all know the same subs come off the bench all the time, which highlights the squad depth. I mean, Chris Wood comes on. He doesn't affect the game, does he? Unfortunately, he just doesn't. So I think Isak getting thrown at the deep end was. I don't think they've taken any risks, to be honest. But yeah, I think he needs a lot of time out and to get right up to speed, fully fit.
Yeah, I'd echo the points there about the squad depth. I think it's just highlighting more and more that we can't keep throwing people in when we're not 100% convinced that they're fit. And I don't know, we could even have the inclusion of more of the youth players. I know Elliot Anderson is very gradually getting more and more minutes off the bench, and it's great to see because unlike Chris Wood, I think Anderson, when he comes on, does generally be a bit more on the front foot, and that's great to see. So it's good that we've got that youth availability there. Could we use a bit more of that? Possibly at this point in time, when rather than risk senior players who aren't fully fit, and give them a bit more time to get it. But then at the same time, double-edged sword. Pete is right in saying that we needed to get those points early on the board, which we have, and yeah, obviously looking at the table now, it proves it was a worthwhile thing to do.
Yeah, I think going back to Sam's point, when we brought Isak in, and apparently he was injured, it was out of almost desperation. Wilson went down with an injury, and we moved very, very quickly to get him in. Similarly to how we're done when we brought Chris Wood in January. We needed a player in for that Watford game on the Saturday, which was a huge game at the time. So we acted quickly and got a man. And ultimately, I think that Chris Wood signing saved us. I don't think we'd be in the Premier League. I don't think we'd be talking about what we're talking about now if we didn't get that signing, because we went, I think it was 8 or 9 games unbeaten. So I think with Isak, again, Wilson went down with an injury. He's going to go down with more this season, no doubt. And we acted quick. We got our man, even though he wasn't fully fit, and just chucked him in. Because as Pete said, Chris Wood, I think, is time's numbered a bit with Newcastle. I'd be surprised if he lasted till next season, because you can tell when he comes on, he doesn't have the quality that we really need, or any impact off the bench particularly. He's just another body we can throw on. So yeah, as you said, boys, I think it's just a necessity that we needed to play these players, and didn't have too much choice to let them rest in bed in.
Yeah, just quickly there, when you're going about Chris Wood, I agree with you. I don't think he's got much longer, but I think January. I think he'll still be here after January. I think he'll go in the summer purely because obviously Isak's out with an injury at the minute. We know what Wilson's like. That could potentially leave with absolutely no strikers. So, but if we got one in, which I don't think we will, I really don't think we will in January go for another striker at all. So I think he'll be away in the summer.
So Eddie and the boys headed down to Old Trafford at the start of the week, or last weekend now. But looking back, it was a tough test, and the first thing in the game that I can remember really that stands out was Joe Linton, and it's for Newcastle United. He gets that header. Pete, I'll come to you first on this because you were there. Did you get a good view of this firstly? And if so, how is the atmosphere when he goes for the header? It hits the bar, gets a second chance, hits the post.
I'll be honest, I can't really remember it. Genuinely can't really remember it. The majority, I was obviously steambolled, so I can't really remember. I do remember hitting the bar, but I can't remember.
You were hitting the bar.
Type of thing. I can't really remember sort of I think it was just unlucky. But to not bury his second head out.
Have you seen it back since?
Yeah, I've seen it back since. Obviously, he was unlucky to hit the bar. When it comes back to him, I think he could have done a lot better.
I think this is it.
It didn't come at him. It didn't come at him sharp, like a ricochet straight off the bar and out like that. It sort of bounces off the top of the bar and comes sort of floats down to him. And he could have just knocked it, but I don't know. He just headed it straight back to the post. It's like, I think, judging by his reaction, it was one of them things where he was like, "Oh, for fuck's sake!" But what can you do? It's one of them things. We saw creating the chances. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think he's got no excuse for not getting that second header on target. Like the first one, it was a very instinctive header, and he done well to even hit the ball with it. But when you watch the second header back, De Gea's still on the floor when he connects. Joe Linton just needs to get it on target, and it's a goal. and you can see it coming back. I think he needs to hit the target there, and I think he will. Well, you could tell after he was disappointed with himself. He was smiling, but he was hurting inside. But he couldn't get that second header on target, I think.
Yeah.
So after that, we started to see a bit of a battle unfold between Anthony on the right for Man U and Dan Burn, who again started at left back. How did you feel Burn handled them, Paige? Because we talked briefly before the game, and we didn't know whether Target might come back in for a bit more pace. How did you feel he standed up to that test?
Oh, I think he did amazing. I think we did mention that Target may come back and that we would set up a little bit more to try and hit United on the counter and use the pace on both wings through Target and Trippier. But we obviously Eddie kept with a reasonably similar team and the defence, which obviously to this point now is still the meanest defence in the league. So yeah, credit there to Eddie for sticking with his guns. But Burn, I think when he does come up against the tricky players, he's using all that experience he has, and he's giving himself a yard. He's not allowing them to try and use their pace against him to get down the wing. He's pretty solid at just shepherding those tricky players like Anthony out of away down the channel and not kind of letting them cut inside. So yeah, in fairness to Burn, he is doing that, and he's done that quite consistently now for most of the season in that position.
Yeah, there's only one instance that stands out in my mind where he kind of got done for pace, but Longy was running back and he kind of just ushered Anthony out and helped him out. But he did pick up an early yellow card, Alex. I think it was towards the end of the first half. Burn picks up a yellow card. At that point, I'm thinking, oh God, second half, it's going to be a long one for him.
Yeah, I think I said at half time, take him off. Anthony's a tricky player, and there's another time where the ball got put in behind, and thankfully I had Botman to take out man and ball. He took a rogue arm to the face for it. But yeah, obviously I expressed last week what I thought about Target coming back into the team, and as Paige said, I think it was a very, very good defensive performance from Burn, and he didn't cause him too much bother in the end. So yeah, I was impressed by his performance, and obviously I wasn't surprised to see him start again midweek with another good outing and another clean sheet.
Yeah, 100%. And I'd say in the whole, we were the better team in the first half. I don't know if you agree, but I'd say our Bruno was way better than their Bruno.
Yeah.
And the only thing I want to touch on before the second half is the sort of diving, and you could already see the started whinging at the ref, and it's classic Man U. It's what you expect, especially when they're at home.
Yeah.
So frustrating.
It is very frustrating, but Man U usually get away with it. I know Man United have been charged for the goal kick that Ronaldo tried to score from, and then they all encouraged the ref. I know they've been done for that, but going back to the little things in the first half, it's just pathetic, mate. It's just more just get on with the game. It's the same with majority of the top teams, to be honest. It's just what they do. They put pressure on the ref to change his mind, and it's just a joke. One thing that I keep saying all the time is that why can't players and referees be treated in the same way as in rugby and football? In rugby, there's so much more respect for the referees. They're not allowed to go into the faces or anything like that. They get a sin bin or whatever you want to call it for that. I don't understand why we can't do that in football, to be honest.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's ruining the spectacle of the Premier League when all you're seeing is just stop start. I mean, we've seen it already that there's something like the ball's in play for only 60 minutes of the game, and it's because of stuff like this. In the way that, like you say, the Man United and the bigger teams are looking for those tiny little advantages through, going down softly under a challenge. And I know that the referees are trying this year to stop or let the game flow a bit more, but it was not flowing in that game against United because of purely one team trying to disrupt it as much as possible. And normally you'd say that would be the away team in most occasions at Old Trafford, but I would say, especially in that first half, United were throwing themselves down far too easily. And I know they'll argue that potentially we did as well, and that they'll claim that Wilson threw himself down looking for a penalty, which I know that everybody here has got a strong view on what that decision should have been. But yeah, I generally didn't appreciate that, seeing how it ruined what could have been a good game, the way that Man United were harassing the referee as much as they were.
Yeah, well, we'll come back to the pen shout, Pete, because I was going to talk about it when we discussed their pen shout, but we'll come on to it now before we move on from the first half. Penalty?
Oh, absolute blatant penalty. It couldn't be more blatant. The referee was miles away, but again, this is what VAR's there for. It's clearly and it's obviously a penalty. He didn't get anything near the ball. Wilson's running straight at goal. I think it was Varane that just steps across him, and he steps into his path, completely blocks him off. Wilson topples over, doesn't get anywhere near the ball, doesn't take the ball, he doesn't win the ball or anything like that. It's just ridiculous. Like, it's a stonewall pen. But what is the point of VAR? Honestly, what is the point of it? Like, how couldn't it? Everyone could see that. From all over the stadium, everyone could see it. But I heard Wilson. Wilson said in his in that podcast, I think it was, he said that he didn't appeal because he's so sick of not getting decisions like that. He's so sick of having to scream for a penalty. That's a blatant penalty, and he's just fed up with it. But it's yet again bad affiliating. It's no surprises. It's the norm now.
Yeah, I'd say again, if Varane had left the floor and absolutely cleaned him out with a horrible challenge, like, what more does he have to do to, like, for it to be a foul? Like, just stepping across like he did there, it's clear he's obstructing him from making his way through on goal. He's in the box. The foul, if that happens, we hear it all the time. If that sort of challenge happens on the halfway line, the referee blows up and it's a free kick. But I don't understand how the same foul, just because it's in the penalty area and it would be a result in a pen rather than a free kick, why the referees are so scared to give those decisions. And yeah, if the ref didn't have a clear view, and that's why it was deemed no penalty at the time, again, like Pete said, VAR were there to assist the referee in helping where the refs made a mistake, an obvious mistake, and in that
Send
case,
him to the monitor. That's what they need to do.
Yeah.
Like, if he goes over to the monitor and he thinks there was little contact, for example, if he thought that and stuck by his decision, you'd respect him a lot more. But the fact that he wasn't even sent over to even have a second look, it's just, what's the point? They'll only use the monitors when it's a 95% chance of it being overturned. I think maybe two times people have been sent over to the monitor and stuck with their decision.
That should have nailed on being overturned, though. Like, that was in that 95% bracket to be overturned. It was just, it's laughable.
VAR looked at it because
Apparently they did.
It didn't seem like you know, like when the next time it goes out to play and there's kind of like a pause and
Yeah.
you're just like, oh, we're just checking, give us a shout. There didn't seem to be any of that.
No.
Yeah, well, thanks to the Premier League scheduling, no UK TV channel was actually showing it. So my South American Super Sports channel or whatever did say that it had been checked on VAR, and it was very quickly sided with the referee that it wasn't a penalty at the time, which was I was on my feet. I was on my feet in my house. I shouted, "It's got to be! It's got to be!"
Sure, was it that Jared Gillett? Was he
Jared Gillett,
yeah.
So that's the Australian ref, isn't he? Who's had an absolute fucking mare for our game. I can't remember who it was. It was early on the
Man
season.
City at home.
The City game,
Man City, aye. It was he had a fucking mare for that as well. So you do it.
Yeah, incorrectly didn't give Almiron's goal, then incorrectly sent Trippier off.
That was
Yeah.
Well, that pretty much wraps up the first half, which I think it was a great first half by the lads. But when we came out in the second half, it was obvious that Man U had upped the game a little bit. I don't know if we'd started tiring, but the next big thing in the game that I can remember is their penalty shout. Is it the Sancho one? Yeah.
Yeah, Sancho.
That definitely went to VAR.
Of course it is. It's Man United. Of course it's going to go VAR.
Did you feel they were unlucky on that one?
I think his theatrics lost on the pen.
Yeah.
I think even if it had gone down sort of naturally, it was a bit of a. I think it was a shove in the back. No, he caught his ankle, didn't he?
Yeah.
He went to pull out the tackle, but
the way he flipped,
it was a lazy leg.
He fucked himself on that. It could have easily been a pen. Don't get us wrong. Wilson's was Stonewaller. I think that could have gone either way, but the fact that he absolutely milked it, the ref didn't want to know.
Yeah, it was a lazy leg from Longstaff, which can happen. But at the same time, the attacker is always going to try and work with what they've got in front of them, and if they spot a lazy leg there, they will try and make it an obvious move to appear as though that leg is clean them out. I don't think Longstaff intended in any way for his leg to trip him. I think Sancho made the move over that leg, and that's why the ref gave obviously waved it off. But again, it's a close one. But that one, you were right, it was far more scrutinised by VAR than the Wilson one. So consistency wise, I don't know. Maybe in the back of their mind they felt they made a mistake with the Wilson one in the first half, and then evened it out.
Even it up a bit.
Yeah, potentially.
For me on that one, I felt like Longstaff actually pulls out, and he's almost expecting the contact, so he that's why he does the theatrics. But was it not Trippier, the first pen show for Man U, where him and Ronaldo come together as the ball's kind of going out of play, and Ronaldo goes down and he's wanting the penalty? Can you remember that one?
No.
Yeah.
No?
Yeah, so obviously Trippier goes in for the tackle, and once again Ronaldo makes a meal of it, and Ronaldo boots the ball out for a goal kick. Again, you've seen them given, but it would have been harsh. There was minimal contact. There was contact, but there was minimal contact. Not enough to send you down. Not enough to send you down in the way that Ronaldo went down. But I think if either of the penalties for Man U were given, you could say they were harsh, but you would understand why. So yeah. I do think there was a bit of evening up the scores, as you could say, from the referee with the shouts. So
I think with that one, like if you saw that in the middle of the pitch, I think you could easily understand why the ref would just be like, "Get up."
Yeah,
with
contact sport.
Yeah, with the Longstaff one, if he deems there to be contact, then that is a penalty. But I think he's either saying that there's not contact or there's not enough contact to to send Sancho over, and then the fact he does those theatrics. However, I do think if that's anywhere else on the pitch, he probably gives the free kick.
Mm.
Did Sancho get carded there for that? For the theatrics afterwards?
No, I don't think he did.
I don't think he did, because we were kind of saying on the group chat, like, if it's not a penalty, then how is it not a yellow card for simulation?
Mm-hmm.
But
that's what I see it all the time, and it baffles me why there's that inconsistency again. Like, sometimes they do, and rightly so. They give cards for diving, but yeah, what if he thinks that it's not a penalty? Then the other thing is that he thinks he's cheated to try and earn a penalty. So yeah, it has to be a yellow card for me. But yeah, never really seems to be consistent on that front.
Yeah, and I guess the first pen shot with Ronaldo, we might as well talk about the other big incident with Ronaldo. For me, this is just absolutely ridiculous, and I've seen so many like Man U fans and Man U podcasts and stuff absolutely raging that the goal didn't stand, and I just did they not understand the game of football? Like the ref blows his whistle as soon as Ronaldo pinches the ball, and he says like blows a whistle, like, what are you doing? It's a free kick to Newcastle. So obviously all our players stop. You can't then just say, oh, well, I put it away.
Yeah.
What do you expect from the most entitled fans in the world?
Oh, that's fucking joke, man. That. You're right as well.
And that's not even bearing in mind the fact that, like, obviously it wasn't in play yet, and like Ronaldo's just gone over and took the ball off Nick Pope. But it's like the ref actually blew his whistle. You scored after he blew his whistle. So how can that be a goal?
No, I don't actually know the rule on this, because free kicks and that, he doesn't always blow his whistle to take it quick and stuff like that. But I'm going to sort of play devil's advocate here, because I thought that when I've seen it back, I thought he'd blown his whistle like almost as Shaw rolled it back. Looking at it back, I thought he's blown his whistle for the free. He still had his arm in the air, the referee, but he blew it, I think, as he rolled it back. But obviously, body language and everything, there was no way it was deliberately taken or anything like that. So I don't know it's hard to see. Like, do you go by, you obviously don't go by football sportsmanship, do you? That doesn't happen in our game. So it's like, where it just doesn't, does it? So I was sort of thinking, I think it could have gone either way, to be honest. Like, he obviously didn't mean to play the ball as a free kick, or kick, like, to take the kick, if you like. You roll the back, Nick Pope might take it. But I might be wrong here, I'll have to watch it back. But I thought the whistle actually went as he stroked it back, which made me think, well, hold on a minute, is he actually, what's he done wrong?
Yeah, but the point I'm making is even if you like put that one side and you play devil's advocate and say, well, all right, then Ronaldo's got like the opportunity to pinch the ball. When he pinches the ball, the ref blows the whistle to say, like,
oh yeah, so he's got to stop. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, so he actually puts the ball in the back of the net after the ref blows the whistle to stop play. So
that's what I'm thinking.
It's not a goal.
Definitely, I 100% agree with that. So he's blowing his whistle, he made his mind up. But I was thinking to myself, obviously I'm glad it wasn't a goal and stuff like that, but you've got to sort of put the fair hat on. It's like, I thought he'd blown the whistle as Shaw rolled it back. So then, unless Ronaldo wasn't 10 yards away, but there wouldn't have been a reason to blow his whistle again. But I'd have to check again. I'd have to have a look at it again. At first thought, I thought, nah, fuck off.
Oh yeah, completely. For me, it's the same with like when you have a player who's like takes a throw in, like when the player walks onto the pitch holding the ball in the hands, like, but then throws it back to somebody else to then throw it into play. like, again, I don't know. Would you then say one of the players has just picked the ball up and just carrying it on the pitch like a handball?
Yeah.
I think it's the same sort of
Throw it,
situation
like,
there with. Yeah, same sort of situation there with Cher. Clearly, he was just playing the ball back to the spot in which the free kick needed to be taken, and yeah, it was. I don't know what Ronaldo was even thinking in that sense on that. So yeah, no idea.
It's quite funny when you watch it back as well, though. Like the way he kind of, like Ronaldo, he sort of goes like a yard, goes another yard, like he's
He knows what he's fucking
not
doing.
going to see him.
He knows what he's doing, the sneaky cunt.
Is there anything I've missed in the game before we? There's the Rashford.
Well, I wanted to talk about the surrounding the ref after the goal. The photo of the 9 Man U players surrounding the ref. I'm so glad Ronaldo actually got carded for it, but honestly, he should have just kept going with the cards. Like, if you're surrounding the ref like that, honestly, it's disgusting. And it just like echoes the entitlement of the fans. The players are just as bad. They think they deserve to be winning against little old Toon. And since they can't, they're throwing the toys out the pram.
Well, this is it, exactly right. They should be. They think that they should be beating us when all the fucking tables are turned. Their club's in turmoil. The fans hate the fans hate the owners. The players can't be arsed. I'm not gonna lie, it's fucking brilliant to watch. Love seeing them. Love seeing them in turmoil. Because, like you say, it's not a title club. I do. Fucking love it.
You do know they're still above us in the table, Pete.
I honestly couldn't give a shit. To be honest, they've got a fucking 20 billion pound squad. They're fucking should, but I mean the whole meltdown is in like you could say it's the whole thing with us and Ashley, but because they're so entitled, having such success, because they're clinging on to the fucking 90s, it's like I don't know, it's like a slap in the face, and it's fucking brilliant. Plus all the trains are on strike, so they can't get back to London.
We might as well just talk about the Rashford chance just at the end. I think it was on the 90th minute or even in extra time.
Yeah.
Which he should be scoring that, and that would have been sickening. But I remember thinking at the time, had they not took Ronaldo off, and that's him, he's burying that, like. So how do you feel at the end of the game after that chance? Like, obviously a great point, but do you think we were lucky or deserved it?
Bit of both. After the shocking decisions and all that, if we'd had the pen, we'd have more likely scored it. So, no.
I think it was very much a game of two halves.
Yeah.
We dominated first half. We had the better chances first half, and second half it flipped on its head. And at the end, I think it was a very, very good point away to Manchester United, especially with that Rashford chance at the end. And I was glad to see all our predictions of 4-goal thriller coming in as well. So it just shows like how good that we are. Good old 3-1 and 2-2.
But just saying that though, like the defence, I know it's not just the actual defenders, but the fact we went there, kept a clean sheet. I think it was after that game that we were then the best record in the league this season. So yeah, lads, I was chuffed with a point away. Could have been 3, but we also could have lost it. So it's Old Trafford.
There was a lot of Manc socials saying that, oh, look at all the Newcastle fans buzzing that they've got a point at Old Trafford. And it's like, have you fucking seen where we've been the past 14 years? Of course we're buzzing to point on the road against a squad of fucking hundreds of millions of pounds worth of players and staff and fucking training centres and God knows what. You know what I mean? So, of course we're fucking buzzing to get a point on the road, you fucking idiot.
At the end of the day, like if you take points away from home, like especially against teams that are above you in the league,
yeah, definitely.
like you should always be happy anyway. So
of course,
that just shows how spiteful they are.
But,
yeah, we'll leave the Man U game there, and we'll talk about the next game, which was Everton at home.
Wanna hear you go.
So Wednesday night saw Newcastle United hosting Everton at St James's Park under the lights. Who was at the game? Pete, you couldn't make it, could you? So you give you
Nah,
ticket.
COVID stricken, so we felt I had it, mate.
Did you have a good time?
No, he had to stand next to Dawson at the game, so he fucking hated it.
I'll give him a bunk up so you can see.
Yeah. Well, he enjoyed it. I spoke on the phone yesterday. He said it was a shit game, to be fair. Which I thought it was. I thought it was a shit game. As in, like, it looked like two poor sides. One was just worse than the other, to me.
We got to chuck him over the seats in front when they scored, though.
I was thinking that myself. Like, I was thinking, obviously, where we sit in the corner, there's a lad that sit next to him. Every fucking goal we score, we could be 6-0 up. In the next goal, you'll just throw himself down the fucking stands. Like be 2 rows down, upside down on the concrete.
Drag you with him as well. You'll drag you over.
Whoever stood next to it. We said when me and Dawson get into the stadium, it's a gamble on who's going to walk down the road first and get stuck next to him, because he just fucking drags you down with him. So for fuck's sake. I was thinking,
shout out to Will.
My dad, shout out to Will. My dad's gonna go.
Well, I am.
Also, my tit down the fucking road, yeah. Like, but no, I think Dawson look after him.
How was the pre-match with the war flags display and stuff?
Yeah, as brilliant as ever. Had the big surfer going up the Gallagher, the Leaser, sorry, which is a nice change to be able to see it, because where we stand in the corner, as Pete said last week when he couldn't read the Sky Sports news banner, we usually can't get a good vision of it. So yeah, it was really good to see. You had all the flags and the other 3 stands as well. So yeah, it was a really good atmosphere, and also fair play to Everton. I think there's the biggest amount of fans that have been at St James's this season. They took up almost the whole side of level 7. There was plenty of them that came up for, especially for Wednesday night.
Was it up to the corner? Was it?
It was right up to the corner, yeah. So fair play for Wednesday night, aye. But yeah, the banners were great. The crowd was in, good song. Yeah, it was positive.
So there was a lot of grief after the game as well, wasn't it? By the Everton fans.
I didn't see any of that, but yeah, I've seen a bit of bother on Twitter.
It was all up the Leazes Park side. But anyway.
So we'll talk about the team lineups then. It was an unchanged side by Eddie, wasn't it? From the team that started at Man U.
Yeah.
Is that just expected now? If we get a good result, we'll keep the same team.
Seems like it, aye.
Yeah, I would say that we've talked about it in the after the Fulham and the Brentford games. Like, we kept a reasonably similar team. I must admit, I thought we would maybe, since we were at home, we would be a bit more expansive and a bit more attacking. And that, like I mentioned before, about having Target come in to be a little bit more of a threat down that left side rather than Burn. Maybe that could have happened and he could have been brought in for that game, but obviously he had an inkling potentially that Gordon down that side would need to be, have that Dan Burn treatment, and yeah, Dan Burn played him brilliantly, I thought. So yeah, in that case, it was a good choice to stick with an unchanged team.
Yeah, before the game, I was listening to some other podcasts and stuff like that, and there was a lot of people assuming that we'd make changes because we've got Spurs away at the weekend, so it's like 3 games in 1 week, and I thought as well, like, who's going to get rested? Everton's the slightly easier game, so you'd think maybe we'd rest like Shaw or somebody like that. I kind of thought Target might come back in, but either Eddie Howe just wants to stick with the same team and he will stick with the same team again at Spurs, or he's deemed the Everton game the more important one, so he's stuck with his what he sees as his best team. Also, obviously, the injuries to the more attacking players kind of prevents him from making changes in that regard. But let's kick on to the match itself then. Was there any standout moments in the first half you wanted to bring up before the goal?
Standout moment.
Joe Linton picks up his yellow card, doesn't he? I think just before.
Yeah, that's a big. Yeah, that's a rash challenge. Could have been sent off. Was it the first half or the second half where he just absolutely clattered whoever it was in the middle of Warby or whoever it was? I can't remember. Was it the end of the first half?
Must have been the first half.
It was the end of the first half. That was just ridiculous. That was a nailed on yellow, by the way. To be fair, that was a nailed on yellow. He should have been off the pitch there. So he was very, very lucky to stay on.
He was smiling afterwards. Yeah, he knew it.
For me, his first one was a bit. I don't know, it was a foul for sure, but you see him afterwards saying to the ref, that's my first one.
Yeah.
So I thought he was slightly unlucky to pick up a yellow for that first one. And then,
that could well have been why the referee didn't give him a yellow for that clatter.
Yeah, because that was definitely a yellow.
Yeah, so he might even do. I mean, I don't agree with this whole evening games up. I think it's a load of bollocks. You can't not give one just because you've given that one that wasn't. It's fucking shit. It's
you just take your decision and just free the game.
Go, I'll not give that one's worse, but I'll not give that one because I gave a soft one before. It's fucking stupid, man. But anyway, if you talk about Miggy's goal, the play, the build for Miggy's goal was brilliant. With obviously the cross from Trips, the header from Murphy. I think the ball hit Wilson in the face. I think before he dropped the Joe Linton, and the beautifully weighted pass from Bruno and Miggy with his wand, straight over the top of Little Arms. Couldn't have been more pitch perfect, could it?
That was probably the best thing about it is had that been a guy with regular length arms, he saves it.
Regular length arms.
Was there many T-Rexes in the crowd, though?
Oh, it was a good few. Especially in the second half when Pickford moved along to the Gallagher, there was about five little T-Rexes, maybe a foot or two tall, being held behind his goal, and then there was the one guy. I think he was from more flags actually. He was holding one of the bigger flags at the start of the game in the full body size T-Rex costume, running up and down behind the goal with a massive flag, and was only stopped by a steward, which was met by a chorus of boos, unfortunately.
No, I've seen a load of Everton fans on Twitter just trying to say that he's got Pickford, Pickford's got us rattled, rather as fans rather than the other way around. I think obviously that's a load of crap, and that Pickford really does struggle when he comes up against Newcastle because he can't let that Sunderland connection go. Obviously, we play to it. We just give him all of the Sunderland crap, but I think he really does just take everything to heart, and we out-psych him completely. But whenever we come up against them, and he was well and truly beaten by that Miggy effort, and it was just brilliant to see. Wanna hear you go.
So another player who was having a bit of luck for Everton was Anthony Gordon, and there was a big incident towards the end of the first half where he takes a bit of a tumble in the box. I don't know, Pete, you were quite opinionated on it on the group chat. Do you want to talk us through what happened?
Everyone knows that I absolutely despise Anthony Gordon. He's a fucking rat. I cannot. I don't think he's the most hated player in the Premier League now than him. If he was a manager, he'd be Klopp, because no one won't stand him. Honestly, he just all he does is whinge and dive. And I don't know who he thinks he is. Honestly, don't know. And I can't believe we were trying to stump up 50 million or something for him in the summer.
I don't believe
Chelsea as well.
Yeah, Chelsea. Yeah.
He's a decent player, but nowhere near as good as everyone thinks. But when it come back to the incident, it definitely wasn't a pen. He was looking for it all day. He was like, it was. You have seen them given, but it was the fact that I think Dan Burn just lifted his arms up in time to say,
He pulled
I
up,
haven't touched him, ref. Aye. And
no
there
contact
Gordon
at all.
goes tumbling over. Just fucking get up, man. And then obviously, I think it was Trippier came over to him. He's being the captain, giving him in. I think he was just giving him some harsh words of advice with him being such a kid. Trippier would maybe coming over saying, "What the fuck you doing? Like, stop throwing yourself around like that. Basically, stop fucking diving." And then we all seen the pictures of Anthony getting in Trippier's face.
Pretty sure he calls him a twat.
He calls him a twat at the end, and of course he does. But the best thing is where the man Mountain Shaw comes thrown over and nearly puts him into Rose's head. That was brilliant. That I think Newcastle United have actually put something on their TikTok of Shaw coming over and throttling Gordon, which is pretty funny to watch. But that just shows the togetherness of the team.
I would have seen that, but I'm not 12, so I don't have TikTok.
It wasn't. It was reposted by NUFC 360. So that's how I see it. Check your Twitter, mate. Quickly delete TikTok.
I'd seen James's pod on Twitter. But
cheeky plug.
I chose the togetherness. They all got stuck in. We all love to see it. Even Popey got stuck in.
I noticed Popey
Popey was getting
it's because
he wasn't shy.
He's a big guy.
Player. He's massive, really, isn't he?
He's a unit.
In there.
It was always good to watch when it gets
Shaw picks up a yellow for that, though, doesn't he?
And Gordon, yeah.
Yeah, so did they say what Gordon's yellow was for? Was it for the dive or was it for the,
I think it was the whole
reaction
with Shaw, I think.
Yeah, it was the reaction.
So again, refs gives no pen, but no yellow for diving.
No.
It was a clear dive, so it should be a card.
So it should be off
I couldn't say that was a dive because there was slight contact. If there was slight contact, you can't admit that. You can't say that if there wasn't any contact, that's a dive. But he did nudge him. He made it a bit theatrical. He overdone it, but it wasn't much of a touch. And he wasn't rolling around on the floor in pain. He threw himself on the ground and rolled over, but he wasn't fucking screaming his head off and all that. I think if he was, it would have been, however, man. Yellow simulation. Go back to the Sancho one. He didn't get a yellow, and he made a meal of that. So there was contact. He did go down. There was nowhere near enough contact for a pen. But I think he sort of done himself a favour by not rolling around on the floor in fucking agony.
I know what you mean, but
I didn't expect a call, to be honest.
I think for me, I'm just getting really frustrated, especially with players like him. And I think at the end of the day, it's simulation. It's not like he is like acting. Like that didn't actually happen because of the contact. He throws himself down. So he's trying to cheat basically, so that should be a yellow card. And if he gets a yellow card for that, then he stops doing it.
He's taken a chance, isn't he, on the fact that, the player is the way in which he's running in the box with where Burn is. He's taken that chance that Burn may or may not reach out and trip him in some way. And so he's playing the odds and obviously got it wrong. And like you say, it's cheating, it's acting, it
needs to be stopped massively. Like punishments need to start getting put in. Yellow card for any sort of simulation, just like that. Like in the little simulation, yellow card because you're fucking cheating. Regardless of how
it's in real time though.
I agree with that.
It's hard for referees to see that in real time, and obviously at the moment you can't give yellow cards through VAR, so it's one of those where in time when players are coming together so quick for the referee who he's not going to be next to the corner flag where that incident nearly happened. The Lionel could maybe tell the referee and help him out. But
surely if it's not a pen, if he's given that decision that it's not a penalty, then like how can it be anything but a dive? Because if it's enough contact to send him over, then it's a pen. So the fact he's not gave the pen means that he's saying, well, he's dived. Yeah. Anyway, it was the aftermath that was the best bit about that.
That was the beat. That's what everyone loved to say on it, the aftermath, and we just wanted to go and see Gordon get flattened. To be honest, like
did that kind of make the crowd get into a bit more, or because it was so close to half time, did it kind of not have much of an impact?
Well, by that time, it was right on half time. And, you know, like when you're at the match, by 42, 43 minutes, people have already started to go for the pints and for the piss at half time.
So the teams come out in the second half, and I don't know about you guys, but it seemed like there was a bit of a shift in the game. Everton kind of got into it, and we looked a bit leggy, to be honest.
Well, definitely on the back foot. I don't know if we just lost all flow, lost all confidence. We couldn't get that back. I mean, I don't want to single players out, but I think Murphy was getting fucking done on toast on that left hand side there. I think he just thought he could run past players.
We did see Willock come on at half time for Joe Linton as well, which
Willock,
for a knee injury. That like gives us a little less bite in the midfield, doesn't it?
Yeah, well, we spoke about that, didn't we? Less bite, but he was close to being getting sent off, like, so he had to come off.
Yeah.
I did see a video of him limping after, but apparently he's going to be all right for Sunday. But Willock can, well, we're seeing it. He can carry the ball and he can drive with the ball. It almost goes under the radar, the stuff he does with that, because he can carry the ball quite a distance. Which is obviously very handy to have. But I think we were lacking any sort of, we weren't very dynamic especially down that left-hand side, unfortunately. Again, so it stopped at Murphy's door again. It's hard to keep saying he's had a couple of good games, but it wasn't a good game for him, this one. I don't think he could. I think he just thought he is quick. He had that good little chance in the first, and I think it was the first 10 minutes or something like that. But after that, I think he got found out, and I don't think he sort of knew. I don't think he sort of knew what to do, how to change his game, how to take on his man. And him and Dan Burn don't link up for me. They're a bit sort of. They've got their own sort of own attributes. They can't really gel together for me.
Yeah, I'd agree. There's a bit disjointed down that side when those two are involved. And again, we're not seeing enough of Murphy doing what Almiron does best on the opposite flank, of him wanting to just gain a yard by cutting inside onto his favoured, in Murphy's case, onto his favoured right foot and trying to open his body up. I have defended Murphy quite a lot on here, but maybe he doesn't have that ability to take that kind of opportunity on, which is a shame because, you know, it obviously works so well down the other flank with Almiron being able to open up and get shots away on goal like that. And like Pete was alluding to there, Murphy couldn't even get by Coleman and beat him down the byline for pace to whip a cross in more times than not. So there was really not, if he wasn't offering anything. And yeah, the second half just kind of felt that it was petering out that way, just like that. There was just not there wasn't really much attacking football going on from us in any capacity. Saying that, there was barely anything from Everton either. For all their possession,
no shots on
goal. They had
again.
nothing. Yeah, they were shocking. There was certain players that I'd point out. You know, Calvert-Lewin. fairness, I know he has only just come back from injury, but he was an absolute shadow for most of the game. You've barely seen him getting any kind of touch. It was so obvious in the way in which they were trying to play long ball football. Didn't really work for them. And yeah, Damari Gray wasn't as threatening as he has been either. So yeah, plenty of like Everton players just lacked that. Yeah, any sort of like threat which played into our defenders' hands, because they were once again pretty solid throughout.
Yeah, it was a strange one because in the second half they seemed to take control of the game a little bit. I don't know whether I think they pushed Iwobi a little bit further forward. I think there was more of a 4-2-3-1, and he was sitting in the hole a bit more than him sitting in the centre of midfield. And I thought he had a very good game. So when he came off, I was delighted to see the back of him. I thought he linked the play very well. I thought he was one of the only bright sparks in their team. And if there's anyone causing any bother, I thought it was going to be Iwobi who was going to be at the root of our problem. Another player who I thought had a cracking game was Onana. I thought he done very well, keeping Bruno a bit quiet as well. So yeah, no, I thought he done really well, keeping Bruno quiet. To be honest, Bruno had a few chances in the first half which he dragged past the post, but I think second half
he's quite a big lad.
Just so cool. He's like 6'5" or something, and you could just see him wrap his legs around Bruno like well, and you could just really stop him from like getting going really. So I think those are two of Everton's best players. But apart from that, going forward, as you mentioned, no shots on goal, and a lot of the play was pass it back to Pickford and lump it up, which clearly I think I read a stat that we won 2/3 of the headers in the game, which shows how imperious our centre halves were at the back, repelling their only threat of long ball football, Steve Bruce football.
Yeah, exactly.
And we'll come up against that sort of team.
Defensive record, defensive shape has been second to none, hasn't it? You've got no complaints about it. You've got the three pretty 7-foot lads at the back. Kobe in goal. They're like a brick wall. I think it's a fantastic defence. You allude to it again. I think if Botman doesn't have a sneaky chance of getting in the World Cup team, I think it's ludicrous considering he starts every game, plays every game in the team with the best defensive record in the league, and he can't get a sniff. I think that's something wrong there, isn't it? For me.
I would be for Holland to not consider and having obviously a Van Dijk and Botman pair and a left footer, right footer, and I'll go back to like Newcastle in that we've had left-footed centre halves. I rated Lejeune before he left. I thought he was a good centre half. Maybe didn't get a real chance at times, and had injury troubles and everything else like that. But he added that nice balance of the ability to pass out from the left side as much as we were able to pass out from the right side. But having two ball-playing centre halves in Botman and Cher, able to comfortably take the ball, move the ball forward up into midfield. You could see it happens so often now. We're able to build better attacks from the back because of that as well. And obviously they're just great defenders as well. They just know what they're doing defensively. We are very, very solid at the back for the first time in what feels like ages, but we can say that as Toon fans.
One player who got a few chances towards the end of the match was Joe Willock. For me, he had quite a good game. I don't know what you lads thought when he came on, obviously second half.
Yeah, I thought he played well. He always he always seems to go a bit under the radar for me. You don't really notice what he does until you sort of sit back and watch the highlights and you think, fucking hell, how good was that? How good was that? I think I've mentioned it before that he just sort of gets his head down and puts the shift in. So yeah, for when he came on, he done well.
He definitely has that ability to drive forward with the ball at feet, dribbling through the middle, kind of like the centre midfield version of St Maximin in a way. Like, we don't have many players that are great at driving through the middle. Obviously, Bruno's capable of it, but prefers to sit and spray the passes. John Joe the same, but yeah, I feel more confident with Willock having the ball at feet and committing a few midfielders with him when he goes off on a dribble than, for example, Longstaff, because it's just not in his game. But Willock, certainly, he had that moment where he kind of playing just down that left channel offered so much more, and yeah, I think linked up well with Wilson for a little opportunity, which ended up, I think he ended up running on into the area and missed the opportunity. But the build-up play was really good from him, and I like to see that kind of breaking the lines from centre midfield. And yeah, I think Willock's one of the only players in that position we have who's capable of doing that.
Yeah, I'd agree. I do like Joe Willock, to be honest. And I think he's only going to get better as well. And some of the stuff Eddie Howe said about him, like in training and stuff, and he kind of mentioned that he just needs to find the back of the net, and it was kind of like that with the Everton game. Is he was popping up in nice positions and just couldn't really get anything on target. But the game towards the end started getting a bit tasty, didn't it? It was like, well, Everton were putting in some hefty challenges. I remember the one on Ryan Fraser, which looked like potential leg breaker the way he went down. And then there was another one on Elliot Anderson, wasn't it? I think Gordon was lucky to stay on the pitch at that point.
Yeah, I think if there was a few things which the referee actually let go, I think Joe Linton, if he hadn't been booked already, I think he would have received a second yellow in the first half. And I think it was exactly the same with Gordon in the second half. I think if he hadn't already been booked, I think that foul on Elliot Anderson would have been a yellow all day for any other player. But yeah, it was the Tarkovsky one quite late on, which I thought looked nasty from the crowd, and it looked nasty on the replay. I know people talk about like an orange card, but I think it was borderline. It wasn't a nice tackle, and it just epitomised how the game. It was just a very scrappy game in general. There wasn't a lot of quality, I think, and I think, as mentioned before, I think Willock coming on gave us a bit more quality. Where I don't think Longstaff or Joe Linton covered themselves in glory really with their forward passing play. Yeah, they didn't. There's quite a few players who had a lot of errant passes during the game, and I don't know whether that's just, as was mentioned, tiredness or just Everton trying to sort of bring us down to their level and just to make it into a scrappy game. But yeah, it was one of those by the end where you could tell tensions were running quite high, and it just got a bit nasty towards the end.
Yeah, I thought even a couple of the subs that we made, obviously Ryan Fraser came on and just got kicked about really for the last few minutes of the game, which
with Anderson
feels. To be fair, Anderson had a few flashes of where I thought he had good ball control, and again offers like that opportunity for playing off the left side and potentially take over Murphy in that position. Fraser, unfortunately for him, he's just seems like he's just a bit of a bully boy. Like, he just gets kicked around a lot, and he's just didn't really offer anything himself when he came on, apart from winning those free kicks. yeah, it did seem to just get scrappy. And I mean, Eddie maybe like sort of seen that as a chance of just like a bit of gamesmanship and allowing the game to just allow Everton to just get a bit dirty with the challenges, slow the game down and just fizzle it out as it was heading towards a 1-0. And maybe Eddie just sort of seen that, brought the subs on at that point and just sort of kill the game a little bit. Obviously from a spectacle point of view was not the best, but got us the result.
We did need fresh legs on at that point as well. We were looking leggy, we were looking tired, and a bit of freshness in the squad. Well, I think it was much needed by that point as well.
I think Fraser's actually better on the right. I know he prefers the left, but he seems to have better performances on the right.
Or Steve Bruce's manager in the centre of midfield.
Oh, actually, just reminded us that Pete, you mentioned Gerrard's just been sacked as we've been recording this.
Well, it was a given, wasn't it? He's had an absolute mare. It's a good job apparently. He turned Newcastle down and chose Villa over, wasn't it? It was
it's going to be interesting though.
That's his Liverpool hopes in smoke, like.
Just the timestamp this, by the way, it's Thursday night and they've just lost to 3-0 to Fulham, so yeah, we've just found out that he's just gone.
All right.
I think we're 1 point above the relegation zone.
I think I was saying this, but in pre-season I went to watch the tournament they had here in Brisbane that Villa were playing in as well as Leeds, and they looked awful. Like, I know it's like a pre-season and they might not be giving it 100%, but I had a feeling they were going to be pretty poor this season.
Right, it was a complete gamble on Gerrard, wasn't it? Yes, he done well with Rangers. He also spent a fortune at Rangers. Not saying that he hasn't spent money at Villa, like. But fuck me, if he's playing in a Farmers League in Scotland, man, he's like, Rangers are obviously going to finish in the top 3 or something like that. Either in Europe and stuff like that, but it's a different kettle of fish coming to the Premier League, man.
A lot of people have made.
Villa are a big club to go to for your first job in the Premier League. And
huge.
Well, it's got absolutely tits up on it.
If you look at the calibre of their players, like, he's not getting the best out of them, it's clear. If you look at sound Villa fans, they are all absolutely sick of the turgid football. Like, I think the top 3 worst games of the season are probably all contained in Aston Villa. Like, they've played some terrible, terrible games. They're just so poor to watch from back to front, and creative players like Coutinho, he's just making them look bang average.
Yeah, no, a lot of people have said that his assistant, Michael Beale, who ended up going to QPR, he was the brains.
He's got nothing left, though.
Yeah.
I've got nothing left.
Yeah, I mean, it would be surprising because Beale has turned down the Wolves job today.
I've seen that, yeah.
Will Villa potentially go in and, like, would Beale, step in?
No chance Villa will go for that. They'll want a big name, man. You know what Villa like? They'll want Rafa, they'll want Poch, they'll want even Nuno, someone like that.
Bruce.
They're not going to piss about.
Give it a big sample at the end of the season.
Yeah, they'll have to get my relegation.
Right then, boys. I'm going to call it there because we've gone totally off the rails. This has been a look back at Man U and Everton. If you've enjoyed the episode, give us a like and a subscribe. Follow us on social media at St. James's Pod everywhere. And we'll catch you on the next one.
Wanna hear you go.